NBC 10 breaking news.
An Amtrak train headed from Washington, D.C. to New York City mangled and on its side tonight in Philadelphia. Skyforce 10 live above the scene in Frankfurt. We're told at least 50 people are hurt. About 240 people were on board this train, and we've seen numerous rescue crews working to help the injured. This video just into our newsroom showing some people being taken away on stretchers.
Now here's how it looked inside the train. This picture was tweeted by former Pennsylvania Congressman Patrick Murphy. Murphy says he is okay, but helping others, saying, quote, pray for those injured.
And we want to take a live picture near the scene where we are awaiting a live news conference from Philadelphia Mayor Michael Nutter. We'll bring that to you just as soon as it happened. But first, here's a closer look at exactly what's going on. This is what the accident scene looked like just after this derailment about 9:30 tonight. You can see the train, one of the cars flipped on its side, plus a number of firefighters and other first responders with their flashlights working to try to help the passengers.
NBC 10's Denise Nakano is live at the scene in Frankfurt. Denise, what can you tell us?
Well, I'm here a few blocks away from the derailment here at Frankfurt and Wheat Chief. And right now you see a huge emergency response. We have a number of police firefighters, emergency crews out here waiting to respond to go in to help in the mass casualties that are reported from this derailment. A number of ambulances out here, and of course we saw a couple of SEPTA buses that have taken people who are injured, dozens of people who are not, but also those who are visibly hurt, being taken to any hospital that's accepting trauma patients at this point.
We were sitting there, and then you saw it go like that, it swung, you could feel it off the tracks, and then we just rolled and rolled. And the next thing I knew, we were pushing out the emergency exit. And I was outside, and there were people screaming and bleeding, and we helped them out, and they're okay now.
Let's get another perspective on this from this scene. NBC 10's Keith Jones live there as well. Keith, what can you tell us?
Yeah, Jim, just when you think it's bad, it seems to get worse. About 20 minutes ago, we were actually moved to this location. We were all the way down there by that wooded area. That's where the train derailed back there. It is quite the scene. There are two groups, two areas where they're triage. They're caring for people back there. Let's take a look at the video right now. The injuries up to this point, I've seen bruises, I've seen lacerations, I've seen cuts. One of the passengers I spoke with didn't want to describe what he saw on board the train that derailed. This is Wheat Chief Lane right now. Multiple injuries, at least 50 what we've been hearing. And this is what I've heard thus far. The former Bucks County congressman is actually there right now. And what we're doing, let's go back live right now, because what we're waiting for is Philadelphia Mayor Michael Nutter to arrive on scene. This is a hectic scene over here. There's also Philadelphia Police Commissioner Charles Ramsey. He's right there in the middle wearing white. We're waiting for him to address the media up to this point because right now they have cordoned off this entire area. It's about a 4-block radius.
A nightly news producer was one of the people on board the train when it derailed. She tweeted video of police and firefighters helping victims into an ambulance.
And our team coverage continues with NBC 10's George Spencer. He's live at Temple University Hospital, where some of the passengers are being taken tonight. George, you seeing a lot of activity there?
Yeah, Jim, this is a hospital that is clearly in emergency management mode right now. Take a look at the end of this block. You can see Philadelphia police have this entire stretch of Germantown Avenue shut down. And back in these live pictures at the bottom of the emergency entrance here, you can see the emergency room doctors and nurses actually waiting outside for incoming patients here. In the hour that we've been on this scene, we have seen mostly Philadelphia police vans transporting the victims. Those victims have been brought here in groups of 4 or 5 at a time, and we've watched many of them loaded right out of the back of those police vans into wheelchairs and other stretchers. There was really no way for us to keep count during the time we've been out here, but the number of injured at this hospital alone appears to be more than 24. That is a very informal count based on what we've seen off the premises. As we come back to the live pictures, you can obviously tell that this is a hospital that is still possibly waiting more patients to arrive here.
And NBC 10's Matt DeLucia is live above this scene in Skyforce 10. Matt, it's one thing to see the pictures and images from the ground, quite another from the air.
Jacqueline, I can tell you it is a very incredible scene up here. We've been watching those live pictures down there on the ground, but from up here you can get a better perspective of exactly what happened out here earlier tonight. And you can see just the mangled wreckage of those train cars that derailed and crashed. And you can see just down here in this area, you see some of the firefighters working to just try to stabilize everything in this situation out here. Also, you can see right over here, I'm going to draw on the screen here, you can see some of the ladders where they tried to evacuate some of those passengers there. You see some of the windows that have been taken out where some of those passengers were able to get onto those ladders and get off of that derailed train right there. I'm going to ask my photographer here to just pull back a little bit so you can see exactly how many of these cars are involved in all of this, and really it just almost forms a Z pattern out here where it just zigzags in this area. You can see just this entire area right here where the cars just derailed, and it just continues on into this area here. So it starts here and really just zigzags into this area here. There's also another train car, perhaps the engine at the front, that is just in that area ahead of the tracks right there. So this is really just a massive scene out here. We counted about 7 to 8 cars, and as Keith mentioned down there on the ground, we have about a 4-block radius that is cordoned off as a result of all this. You can see just in this area right here, we have fire department activity here, we have activity here, up here, and even all the way over to the top left corner of your screen. So this is a massive response out here right now.
Matt, from your perspective, can you tell if there is a curve in the tracks? I know it is dark, and you mentioned how dark it is. We saw that sea of flashlights from the first responders trying to get to people. But from your perspective, from the air, can you tell if there is a sharp curve in the tracks anywhere near this derailment?
Well, we're going to pull back right here so that we can give you a look at exactly what you're asking, Jim. And you can see just in this general area, I'm going to sort of draw where we see the tracks. And you can see that it just sort of kind of comes in that area. So there is a slight curve in that general vicinity. It does not appear to be a very sharp curve.
We have now entered a new stage here at the hospital. That is a stage of family members showing up here to try to meet up with victims who were on board that train. This is some video that is a group of family members being led away by hospital and Amtrak officials. We're being told that the family members are waiting in some sort of faculty room here, either connected to the hospital or to the university, while their loved ones are being treated in the emergency room here. I spoke to one guy who lives here in Philly. His son was on board that train. He said his son had called him from inside the hospital, said, "Dad, I'm here at the hospital. I'm going to be fine, but come here and pick me up, give me some support." So Dad had arrived here. He was going to wait with the other family members. The good news in that situation, he told me his own son told him he would be fine, was just being treated for relatively minor injuries here.
We do want to go to NBC 10's Denise Kahn, who is on the scene. You were looking at video of a SEPTA bus. Denise, that bus is transporting some individuals?
Yes, Jacqueline, this has been the third bus we have seen tonight, and it just got here probably about 2 minutes ago with some SEPTA transit police on board with these passengers that are being shuttled out of here. A number of buses coming in, and this is the best way to get passengers who have wanting just to be taken out of the area or even injured slightly to area hospitals, and just to get them out of the scene. Right now, this shuttle here is getting ready to pass us, but been sitting here for a few minutes. The other 2 buses, we saw a couple dozen on each of those buses. Many of them did not look injured. A couple of them were visibly hurt.
As you've been updating us, Denise, we've been getting updated numbers from Amtrak, which is telling us that approximately 238 passengers were aboard this train. It was train 188 with service from Washington, D.C., headed to New York City. The crew of 5 also on board that train, and service between New York and Philadelphia. Once again, Amtrak saying it is canceled for the night.
And we have seen some video from inside that train, and we do want to show some of that to you. It was shot by an NBC producer on board the train.
Her name is Janelle Richards. Watch and listen as people escape from that derailed train.
Get that out. Here, hold on. Hold on, here. Go.
Should I just get out?
Hold on.
Help me.
Yeah. Courtney.
Okay, chaotic and obviously very frightening situation. That was video shot by an NBC News producer who was on board that train. As we look once again at live pictures, once again from Skyforce 10, you see all those first responders still on the scene there on the ground, Jackie, with minimal light to shine on the aftermath of this derailment.
And we're hearing many reports from people via Twitter and via social media about what they encountered on that train. Some of those pictures showed you exactly the chaotic and hectic scene. And as rescuers were responding and helping people, also you saw passengers on board who were helping each other. And some of those tweets we saw from people saying, I'm okay, but I'm helping others. Please pray for others. And it really was a team effort to try to get everyone off safely.
Yeah, former Pennsylvania Congressman Patrick Murphy tweeted out that he was okay, but he also spoke to MSNBC and he described what he encountered in the aftermath. He was in the cafe car and said at first the train wobbled and then it felt like it just went off the tracks. And he says they kicked out a window and they were helping fellow passengers get out of that train. He said one passenger next to him was passed out or unconscious. And he said some of the injuries were so serious that some passengers could not move. Matt DeLucia above the scene for us. Matt, this is in an area known as the Frankfurt Junction, I understand.
That is correct, Jim. It's just something that we saw up here a few minutes ago as we've been zooming in and out of the scene and just trying to get the full picture of what happened out here. Take a look at this, the front train here. This would most likely be the engine. It separated from the rest of the cars, and you can just see right over here where it jumped over and almost bent the tracks in that general area right here. And you also see right here a freight train very close by. It does not look like the engine of this train here hit that freight train, at least from this vantage point, but you can see just how close it was. And you see some of the Amtrak workers and investigators right there in front. They're just trying to get a better look at what was going on here. But you can just imagine how much force this train had when it went off the tracks to be able to bend the tracks like that. I mean, train tracks are very, very sturdy, strong structures, and for it to bend like that, you can just imagine how much force that train had when it went into that area. I'm gonna go over here to the left, and I just want to show you something else where we see more of the rescue workers, more of the investigators at this point. We also saw just over here in the past 5 to 10 minutes, it looks like the investigators have started what is known as a grid search, where they put up tape in the area and they try to go piece by piece in a square area to try to find some debris and some evidence that can try to pinpoint exactly what happened out here earlier tonight.
Yeah, that ripple effect being felt here at 30th Street. So you can see it looks pretty quiet here right now. Obviously, the scene in Port Richmond playing a major role on travelers in the Northeast Corridor. I just spoke with a man who just got off a New Jersey Transit train. He is bound for Indianapolis. He went to Atlantic City for a few days, was coming back here to Philadelphia, but his New Jersey Transit train stopped in Cherry Hill. They were told that there was an accident. They had to get off the train, and they are busing passengers here to 30th Street Station. Also inside, announcements being made for those passengers who are trying to get to Atlantic City on New Jersey Transit trains. They are being taken to Cherry Hill via bus, where they will pick up a train. I talked to an Amtrak representative. She says right now she doesn't have much information to give passengers. She's trying to get head counts of those that are trying to get to New York, that are trying to get to D.C. I talked to one woman who said that even if she's stranded for a couple of days, that's okay. She understands the gravity of the situation.
Jim, we are just off a spur that leads back into the rail yard, just next to where the train derailment happened, near the curve where this appears to have happened. We've seen an odd number of unmarked vehicles, appearing to be federal vehicles, presumably investigators going into what is a dead end. We've also seen equipment going inside from Amtrak. These are the lights that you now see illuminating the scene. We also obviously have many Philadelphia police cars, fire equipment, as well as EMS. The NBC 10 investigators, we also looked into how often this kind of thing happens. According to the Federal Railroad Administration, there have been 18 train accidents so far in 2015. That's just in Pennsylvania. 11 of those accidents involved a derailment, and 5 of those in Pennsylvania involved passenger trains this year. So far, until today, none of those accidents involving trains have been deadly.
SEPTA is telling us it's Trenton and Chestnut Hill West lines. They're suspended at this point. They anticipate that the Trenton line will be suspended throughout the service day tomorrow, that being later today, and possibly through the remainder of the work week. Again, that's the Trenton line. Information, they say, may be available in the morning, later this morning, about when service on the Chestnut Hill West line will be restored. So an impact to SEPTA service as well.
And these pictures that you're looking at from Skyforce 10 are not live images. These pictures are from earlier, when you see just the incredible amount of rescue personnel who were sent out to this level 3 mass casualty in Port Richmond, where at least 5 people have been confirmed dead. So these pictures are from earlier. We know that some secondary searches were taking place as well to make sure that everyone was off of that train. And of course, when sunlight comes, they'll be able to get a better look and assess the damage. But
We've been
so much to clean up.
Absolutely,
and it's just a daunting task of how long that will take.
Indeed. We've been talking about the curve that's in this area on the track. The mayor mentioned that. He confirms there is a curve in the rail lines. We don't know the speed of the train, but NBC 10's Sheena Parveen is here with us now, and she's been taking a look at that area on the maps for us, and she can explain what we're talking about. Sheena?
Yeah, Jim and Jacqueline. So it might be hard to tell from video from Skyforce 10 where that curve is. So here is a better image of the Port Richmond section. So the yellow line I've drawn, that's actually Frankford Avenue. So again, Amtrak train 188 traveling from D.C. to New York. It stopped at 30th Street Station, where a train would drop off and pick up passengers. Then from about 30th Street Station to this area of town where we have that curve, it's only about a few minutes on a train. So now it's leaving 30th Street Station and it's traveling in the direction of New York. It hits this curve right here. This is where the train tracks are, just past Frankford Avenue, right before Frankford Creek. Once it hits this curve, it's going to veer off to the right, and that is where we really see the rail lines torn up. You saw the video from Skyforce 10.
We also saw and heard that Amtrak is bringing in emergency lights to enable workers to have a better working environment so they can see what they're doing here in the darkness there.
We know that some people were taken to hospitals by ambulance and then by other police vehicles, and then they described walking wounded. Speaking of those injured, we want to go to NBC 10's Randy Gyllenhaal, who is live at ARIA Health Frankfurt campus.
To me, that's what I was
Randy.
Okay. They heard the news and they just came in.
Hey guys, I'm joined by Dr. Robert Danoff, who is a doctor here at Frankfurt Hospital, ARIA Health Frankfurt Hospital. You heard what was happening, and you, along with a number of other doctors, just volunteered to come in and help treat these patients.
Yeah, the ARIA Health doctors, emergency medicine doctors, other doctors, they just came in, and you know, when they heard, they just volunteered, and the nurses volunteered to come in just to help at the Frankfurt and the Torresdale campus because of the amount of people that were there. So it's a good team approach.
Yeah, and can you just tell me about the situation around 10 o'clock when you guys got here? You said about 25 patients roughly, some of them actually in the front 3 cars of this train?
Well, from what it appears, the first 3 cars, especially the first 2, seem to have the most serious injuries. Some of the people that were able to talk, they just heard a loud screech. Last thing they remember is spitting up dirt, you know, being in pain. They just don't know. Some people didn't remember what happened from the time they heard the loud noise to the time they were walking out. So it was, you know, they're all just saying it was just like surreal.
Obviously, a long night ahead for some of those passengers, many of those passengers on board Amtrak train 188 that left Washington, D.C. earlier tonight, bound for New York City, with this derailment happening about 9:30 this evening, and at least 5 dead, 6 people right now in critical condition, 7 of those rail cars, including the engine, in various degrees of disarray, a scene that Mayor Nutter said is unlike anything he had ever seen in his life.
Among that, all of those images of what he had never seen before, 6 overturned cars. The one car you're seeing there that is a mangled mess, another one that is on its side with a beam through it. We see the remnants from the rescuers as they were trying to pull everyone out, and the scattered debris that is everywhere that we will get a clear picture of when the sun comes up. But just a daunting task of what these rescuers are going to have to deal with and the cleanup that is ahead. Hopefully, we won't hear any more about any further casualties or any further critical injuries.
Federal investigators heading here to Philadelphia to begin the investigation into what went wrong. We're back on the air at 4 a.m.